Got the racing shoes on. What's up, guys? It's Gary. In this episode, I am going to do a couple of minor things to the old original hot rod tractor over here, and they are going to make a major difference. We're going to change the appearance quite a bit, actually, with just a wheel and tire change, and that is also going to make it drive much better. Also have a little bit of a fuel delivery issue that I'm going to address, so we're going to have to diagnose and fix that to get it running again, and we'll take it around the yard and see how it rips. Let's get these wheels off and put something else on there. Alright, so this is the hot rod tractor. If you guys aren't familiar, it's been on the channel for a while. I did a few different things to it, and some of it was already kind of built that I had done many years ago. I pulled it out, I did some work to it. It is what it is now. Go back, check out all the videos if you want. What we're going to be changing in this video is more or less the hood situation and the wheels and tires. What it has right now is trailer tires on it. Those are 5x4.5 bolt pattern, and they are 12-inch rims, 12-inch wheels, and it is a staggered fitment, 530x12 in the rear, 480x12 in the front. And, you know, I kind of went that way because I wanted like a real old school look, kind of a vintage race car setup. We're sticking to a staggered stance, because this is what I have, which is actually pretty amazing. These are going to be awesome. This used to be on there. So if you go back and check out the first few videos of the hot rod tractor, and when I basically got it running after I said it had been sitting for a long time, those were on the back. Those are 22x950s, I believe, 22 950x12s. And then these were on my GT5000, the one that we're building right now, that was the free one that I got, and those are 23x1050s. So both 12-inch, you know, garden tractor rear wheels, so the 5 on 4.5 pattern. Alright, well, I don't know about you guys, but I think that looks absolutely amazing. It takes on an entirely different look. I mean, it doesn't even look like the same machine. Now, as far as the hood goes, I didn't get that totally figured out. In a future video, we will actually have to do something about the hood. So, I may end up moving the Zeus fastener deals. I just have it set on here. And I might make something for the back to kind of capture it and make it fit nicely. I'm not sure yet, but the whole like threaded rod hood pin things didn't quite work out as I wanted to, just because they're not secure enough and it doesn't hold it where I want it exactly. I mean, maybe I don't know, I might stick with them, I might not. But my plan is actually to do more here. There's going to be more or less a fully captured front end, or a closed in front end, probably with like a mesh grill or something in the front. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do just yet, but I'm loving the way that looks. And yeah, Alright, well, suddenly this thing's got a fuel starvation issue. In the last video, you saw me rip it in the driveway, two-step launch it a couple times. And I drove it around a little bit down in the field, too. I didn't put that in the video, but it ended up starving of fuel. I just basically cut out like it was out of fuel. I got it to restart, and I was only able to run it on choke, and I got it back up here, and right now it'll only start and run on choke. Let me show you that right now. I'll fire it up. Alright, so here's the choke right here. Choke it, ignition. See, it's going to be harder to fire up too. It's not wanting to start as easily. Alright, well now you get the point, right? Now it won't run at all. So we got an issue and we are not getting fuel where we need it. So you get the idea. I mean, we're not able to start it now. So let's dive in. We'll do a couple basic checks. I can see I got fuel at the fuel filter down there at the tank. Now what I'm thinking actually might have occurred I haven't looked at anything yet, is I'm really leaning towards something is plugging the tank, because it sat over in the yard for well over a month, maybe more. And when I went and pulled it out of there, like I could have swore I had fuel in it, and there was no fuel in it. So for one, the fuel either evaporated or drained out of it somehow. But now it has fuel in it, it's not leaking. So I don't know exactly what happened there. But the fact that it was basically empty, this tank might have had some debris in it. It kind of did when I put it on there, but I cleaned it out the best I could. So I'm thinking maybe something might have got there. But let's, what I'm actually going to do is, maybe I'll just pull the fuel line off right here at the back first. See if we got flow coming out of the tank. And the fuel filter doesn't really look dirty at all. So, oh wait, you know what? I take that back. There's a bunch of debris in the filter, but not enough to clog it. And what that tells me is that there's probably a bunch of debris in here clogging up the tank. So let's just see what happens when we pop this guy off. I'm going to bet that not a lot of anything is going to come out of this fuel line. No, that's a lot of anything. Alright, so we're going to move forward. We are literally going to move forward to the fuel pump, basically. Now, what I'm hoping the carburetor itself, because, you know, it might have clogged up the pilot jets. So it might have clogged up the pilot jets. Luckily on these engines, it's actually really easy to address that. And especially on this one, because I have actually gutted the air box, which makes it basically just taking this air filter housing off, and we can get to where the pilot jets are. But I'm hoping it's not that. I'm thinking we're gonna check to make sure we got fuel coming out of our fuel pump. So we could just pop the fuel line off right here and see if it comes out of the fuel pump. I'm going to pop it off of the line, or pop the line off the carburetor, which normally is not as easy to get to, but I'll show you here. We got on these Briggs Intech V-twins, under the air filter in here. Normally not accessible like this. Normally this is all mostly filled in with just a couple of little slits, a couple of little air holes. So I've actually gutted this entirely, and your pilot jets on these 2-barrel Nicky carburetors for the Intech V-twin, which, by the way, Intech V-twin 2-barrel is a different carburetor entirely than the Vanguard V-twin 2-barrel, just to let you know. But anyway, in here there is the pilot jets, which are not removable on these carburetors. They are just pressed into the body of the carburetor. But you can get in there, spray some carb clean down in there, put a little piece of wire down through there if you have to. That 9 times out of 10, that's what happens with these carburetors, and then they're perfect. You just clean that out. You don't even have to take anything else apart. Now, of course, normally you would have to take the top engine shroud off, to get to it, which is no big deal. You would just need to take that guy off, 4 bolts, and then there's a few bolts going around, and you don't even have to take the bolts all the way out on these. They are slotted, so you just loosen those, that top slides right off, and you have all the access in the world to everything over here. So again, I gutted this for airflow, but of course it also helps now for this situation. So let's pop that fuel line off. I'll hit the key again, and we'll see if we got fuel flowing out of there. I'm inclined to believe that it's a fuel flow issue and not just a main pilot jet issue, because typically if it's a pilot jet issue, it will fire up relatively easily with choke, and then it just won't want to idle and it won't want to run off choke. And right now we are to the point where we can't even start the engine. So it's going to be probably something going up to the fuel pump in this area, or it's going to be the fuel pump or something after that. I have this really old fuel filter here too, which I'm going to take off. We're going to replace that right now as well. And then if I have a fuel filter, but it's not the right size, so hopefully I can make it work. But either way, let's see what we got going on here. So right off the bat, when I pull this off, if it's dry as a bone, well, that's going to be a sign. It's going to be a clue, I should say. Well, I wouldn't say it's dry as a bone. No, it's not dry as a bone, that's for sure. Let's see if I could try not to make too bad of a mess here, and see if we got fuel flow when we hit the key. Alright, that's definitely flow, so I'm going to say that's probably fine. Which is annoying. We're going to have to get into that. I thought maybe it would be a little bit more flow than that, but that should be plenty of flow. I am still going to replace that fuel filter, but dang, I thought that was going to be a smoking gun right there. Now, most of the time you can get this off without wrecking the gasket. See, it just popped right off there. The gasket is reusable. That'll be fine. And I will want to grab my flashlight, but I'm not really going to be able to see anything. But basically, that hole, those 2 holes right there, that is where your pilot jets are. There you go. Now you can actually see them down in there. See it? And they're real tiny. Now on this carburetor, I actually have drilled those out, so they're not quite as small as they would be. So the best kind of wire, the best thing I like to use is an old cable like this. This is actually for a mower. I believe this was on a mower. But, you know, you can use pieces of you can use like a wire brush that has long enough bristles. The thing is about these carburetors, you need kind of a long cable. A long piece of wire, I should say. Well, normally, a lot of times all you need to do is just take your carb clean straw and shoot it directly down in there, and that fixes it. Now, I don't have any carb clean laying around or anything like that, so I'm losing daylight here, and I'm just gonna hope I can fish this wire down through there. The only problem is, another thing you gotta think about is how you gotta get it really straight for it to work with these carburetors to go into the hole. Hard, you gotta feel it too, like make sure it actually gets in that jet, and it'll go pretty far down in there. But like I said, the trick is making sure you've got a straight enough end on cable here on your wire. I'm still not confident that this is even my issue, but there we go, it went in. I think it went in. Yeah. Pretty certain. Where's my flashlight? It's really far down in there too. So right off the bat, I mean, I don't know, these seem like they're pretty clear. And now I'm thinking, like, I wonder if we got some sort of clog at the needle and seat or something like that, which is very rare. I mean, really, it happens, but it's not something that I've seen often, especially on one of these. You know, see that maybe more often on like a snowblower carb or something where it's been sitting for a long time. You can get like a stuck needle, but I don't know. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. Of course, bolting this plate back on is not exactly rocket science, but maybe it'll make it in the video, maybe it won't. I don't know. One thing I wanted to do too is see if I had any water in my gas, because it kind of seemed like maybe that was the issue. So I drained some more out of the tank, and initially I thought it looked hazy, but if you have water in your gas, you would see the water on the bottom. The gas will float on top of the water. And I'm going to say we're pretty good. That looks good. So I also ended up taking off that old fuel filter, which by the way was not clogged whatsoever. And the only thing was the rest of the fuel line right around it there was really old. So I wanted to replace that. And I didn't have another fuel filter that fit that properly. So I just put a piece of line there. We just have the one fuel filter at the back. That'll be enough. We got major issues here. Man. Now let me check one more time that we got good fuel flow coming out of the end of this thing. Alright. It wasn't turning over very well, but that didn't seem very good, did it? Alright, let's see what it does now. Alright, I'm going to say that's probably our issue. It did start flowing, but it definitely seems like an intermittent failure to flow. But yeah, we just have electrical tape, and I noticed it's like not even fully in there, so maybe that's our issue. Well, it is like completely split where it wasn't exactly completely split before. Huh, maybe that is our issue. I'll show you, hang on. That wasn't in there quite all the way, so we might have just been losing most of our vacuum signal. Alright, well, where I last left off, I got that little fuel line, that vacuum line going to the engine. And I thought I had another one, but I don't. So I'm going to see, I got basically two options right now. There's no parts stores open for that kind of stuff. So I'm going to see if I can use like a piece of vacuum line or something and just shove it into that hole. Let me show you what that looks like. Because it is a, the thing is, it's not like you could just put any, it's just literally a stamped piece of steel with a hole in it. So it's supposed to have a grommeted end on it. You know, like the piece of line has that kind of grommet groove in it. But maybe I can get something to just sort of shove in there. But of course it can't be too big of a hose or it'll collapse when you shove it in there. Alright, so I got a couple clicky clackies, but check this out. We got this is actually from the Mercedes. This went from the manifold to the Alda, I believe. Or, well, from the Alda to the boost, overboost solenoid. This piece of line looks like it might work. That might shove into the hole, and that might go on our fuel pump. It might be just the right size, so let's see if that'll work. Alright, check it out. Here's how we're doing it. I already mocked it up. I already know it's going to work, I think. I've got this piece of hose. I'm going to shove that into there. That way that hose will fit on my fuel pump. And basically, this guy does, I just tested it, shove into that hole. It looks like it's going to work perfect. Alright, check it out. That's the original piece. we are roughly in the ballpark. Got that, I trimmed that piece down a little bit. And yeah, you can see that was the part I trimmed off there, so now we can still have a little bit of room to shove our fuel pump on. Got her all bolted back in place. She's shoved in there perfectly. So regardless, that was an issue anyway, so now that's fixed, and we'll move on, and hopefully that actually solves our problem. But either way, that did have to be addressed. So let's fire it up. Well, let's attempt to fire it up and see what happens here. Let's go here. Ignition. Choke. And the throttle. Let her rip. Missing a cylinder, and I don't know why. It might be because I messed with that pilot jet. Let's fire it up again. Maybe it's just flooded out of one cylinder. Maybe it got water in it. I don't often hear it with the hood off, so of course I found an exhaust leak, which I already knew was there, but I could see that it was there. Oh my god. Yeah, you can feel it. Sounds a little knocky, but that's just how these kind of sound. I mean, I don't think... You know what's funny is a regular lawnmower would be way louder right here, because normally a regular lawnmower has the muffler right in the front. So you can really hear this thing just ticking away. Hear every little thing with it. Pretty cool. I just got two issues right now. Just got to take care of real quick. One, I got to take my boots off, put my shoes on. I can't drive it with these boots. And two, we have a limit, and that's going to be our belt, because it's, for one, kind of worn out and it's wet. So I already noticed the belt slipping. There's definitely more tendency to understeer with those front tires. And I don't have good brakes still, so those brakes are not working. I didn't even try the brakes actually, but if I can get these shoes on and then actually manipulate the clutch and the throttle a little bit more accurately, I think I can start ripping this thing. But it's been a while since I drove it like at all, so let me change into my shoes. You don't want to see me standing here talking, you want to see me rip, so I'll be right back. All right, got the racing shoes on. You know, I was thinking it probably would actually handle really well with the skinny tires in the front with the wides in the back, but it just won't look as cool, in my opinion. I think it looks pretty rad right now. So so amazing. Oh my God, I can't even believe how good it is. I mean, the way it freaking drifts on these tires, and by the way, it rides way smoother. And I don't even know how much pressure I got in them. I kind of made them kind of hard. But those trailer tires, those are like 6-ply tires. These are probably 1-ply. And also probably the fact that they're kind of wide out, the whole chassis is probably flexing. It freaking drives incredibly. Now, of course, if you don't get it, you know, you got to really manipulate the clutch going into the corner. I mean, you've seen a couple times I was basically sideways before I even got into the corner. And if you don't do it right, like down there I was having a lot of trouble because it's downhill, and then you just start understeering and you really got to commit. And frankly, if I had a front belt guard, I'd be way better because I'd be able to really aggressively manipulate the clutch. But I don't have a belt guard, so if I manipulate the clutch a little bit too much, it'll throw the belt off when I go flying into the corner. So belt came off. Had a bit of a crash. No big deal. Let me get that belt back on there. Man, this thing is incredible. Alright guys, well, that didn't quite end like I wanted to. I was going to go rip it down in the field over there, but, you know, I am a strong believer that things happen for a reason, and this thing didn't want to work anymore. So, you saw me hit the rock wall, and I don't think it's related to that whatsoever, but my clutch, it seems that my clutch, basically the arm that activates the belt there, the actual clutch arm, it's loose, and it's so loose that it's way out of alignment. So 2 or 3 different times I tried putting it in gear, and the second I let out the clutch, it threw the belt off again. Well, then on top of that, all of a sudden there's either a bad connection or the battery died. I don't even know. Maybe it's not charging again. But ultimately that was like 3 or 4 attempts at it, and it just did not want to work anymore. So that gave me a sign: do not even worry about it. You weren't meant to go down there. You were just going to cause problems. So again, that's not my property down there. But anyway, you know, I wanted to tell you another thing, which is sometimes you just, if you're stuck on a project, and or maybe you're just not into it as much as you were in the beginning, you know, just have a little fun. Play with something else if you have it, you know. And in this case, I really have been I wouldn't say I've been struggling, but I've been kind of overwhelmed with the progress that I've not made. I'll put it that way. I've not made enough progress on this other project here. I still have like a vision for what it's going to be. I have like an idea for a lot of what can happen with it. I just haven't gotten the work done on it. And I decided, you know what, let's just play around with this thing. And actually, I'm really happy I threw these wheels and tires on it. We're going to go in, and I am going to probably get back to that in the next coming videos. I might go back and forth a little bit because there's a couple things that I want to do that we're going to have to do on that, and there's a couple other things that I want to do on this, including maybe that other hood that you saw on it before. I think it would look really good because that hood with this wide wheel setup actually looks really cool. And frankly, it drives better. It's just so much better right now with these wheels and tires on here. It's a little bit maybe more it wants to understeer more than it did before. However, the amount of oversteer that it can achieve now it's just absolutely incredible. So we'll get a front belt guard on it. We'll go ahead and retighten that up, that clutch up, and maybe try to get a different front end on this thing at some point here in the coming videos. And we will also get back to work on that project. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me rip it in the yard. I can't believe how fun this thing is to drive. And that machine there is going to be a totally different type of driving experience with that H-pattern gearbox, I think. But it's also just going to, I don't even know. I'm not sure how that thing's going to react or how it's going to drive. But I'm actually really excited to drive it, because the way that go-kart seat came out and how that feels to sit in, frankly, that go-kart seat almost needs to be on this. But I have other ideas for this to get us held in, because the biggest issue with this thing is when you're going sideways like that, man, it is hard to hold on. I mean, really, like, it just needs bolsters. And like I said, if it had that go-kart seat, I know you guys can't see it, but if you're here and you were here before, maybe you know what I'm talking about. The go-kart seat on the other one that's sitting right in front of this. That is a bucket seat that would be much better at driving the way that I'm driving at. However, I just didn't think it fit the aesthetic of this machine, and I still don't. I want it to be on that one. I don't want it to be on this one. I love the way this seat looks and feels. So we just need to come up with something to actually hold us in the seat, and do a few more refinements to this thing. I will say it definitely, although it spins these tires easier and really wants to slide out, it definitely noticeably takes more power to spin them. So they're not really any heavier. And actually, yeah, it's weird because I don't think they're really much heavier than those trailer wheels and tires, but it just seemed like it was a little bit less power. Like it was sucking a little bit more power from the engine. That's third gear, by the way. Everything there in the front yard, once I get into third gear, I'm not shifting. I'm just leaving it in third gear the whole time. And man, what a freaking machine. I love this thing. And also the front end alignment, the extreme too much caster that I put in there, like 4 degrees of caster, actually performs very well in that situation. That's exactly what I was looking for when I did that, was that kind of reaction that it was giving me, which is that, so before I did the caster angle, when I would go into the corner, when I would throw the thing sideways at that extreme of an angle, and actually, to be honest, I've never gotten it at that extreme of an angle. That was the most amount of angle I've ever gotten out of this thing, and also like the best donuts I've ever gotten out of it. But well, what it was before, when it had a straight zero caster angle, is you would be sideways correcting it, counter steering, and when it came back, you had to really actively basically anti-counter steer it, like bring it back into straight. There was no self-correction. So what caster angle helps with is that self-centering. Like when you're driving your car and you go even just a normal turn, you turn a 90-degree corner on an intersection, when you let off the wheel, just let your hand off, the wheel goes back to straight. And that's what I wanted to achieve with this caster angle, and it actually really, really works. Now, it also makes the steering effort higher, but ultimately it wasn't really a hindrance. And I almost think that, like, actually even right now it steers pretty easy. And I think partially maybe due to these wheels, these tires, I should really say, because I just think they don't dig into the ground as much, and because they're wider, there's not as much real weight pushing down because of the surface area. So I don't know. I think this thing, really, this is the setup that it was always meant to be, apparently. I love it. It still looks like a race car, and frankly, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think it looks cooler with these wide tires on here all around? By the way, they are staggered stance, so it is smaller in the front than the rear. The fronts are 22. Let me look real quick. Yeah, so the fronts are 22 by 950 12s, and the rears are 23 by 1050 12s. So really, it's a perfect setup. It just looks absolutely amazing, and it handles pretty good. I like it. So, all right, that's going to do it for this one. Really, this was just another last-minute kind of an idea for a video, because well, like I said, I wasn't really getting anything done on that. I had a couple ideas this week that I was trying to figure out, and I just never really got anything done that I wanted to get done. So we had a little bit of fun with the old hot rod tractor here. So, you know, go ahead and like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I appreciate all of you who are subscribed, and I appreciate everyone who's watching regardless. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you next time. I really hope I hit record.